Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Braxton College's live webcast. We come to you a couple times a month here. We try and bring you the most up-to-date topics, whether it be medical, fire, leadership, education, all different topics for our industry. And tonight is another fantastic topic for us. So as we talk about different things and kind of the relationships we have throughout locally, throughout the state, and nationally, one of the things that always comes up from us is competition. From a provider level, we've been doing competitions and ALS competitions for years. And tonight we're going to talk about, for you as the provider, you as the student, you as the agency, how can you use competition, ALS competitions, to enhance your own knowledge or profession, how you can enhance your training division, how you can use this to make yourself better providers. Now, with that, we had to get a select group of people that utilize this from a training perspective. To do that, we left out some fantastic competitors. So we just wanted to throw that shout out to all the great competitors that have been out there that we've been going against for the last couple decades that just don't fit on this screen. So and we'll go around and mention them, but we wanted to say that off the top, that this was not a compilation of the best competitors that we've always been around, and although these guys are fantastic, there's a ton of them out there. So I don't want to leave anybody out, but Kelly, and we love you. And so the Boca teams, the Margate teams, the Kelly Burns of the world, Hermes Oliva from my brother from the beginning. So these groups, and you guys can mention many as well, that just couldn't be on this call, because we're here to talk about training and how to utilize that. So tonight I have Captain Tony Chin. I have semi-retired Glenn Jordan tonight. Greg Lowe, captain with Miami-Dade, Dr. Tony Gandia, and Captain Tim Roach also. So we're going to go around the room, and we're going to be talking quite a bit about how this has helped us and really how we think it can help you. If you've been in this job, I started competing myself while I was still on probation within the fire department. That was in 1996. So, that was my first competition and kind of introduction to this, and I'm still involved in it. And we'll talk about our involvement, throughout this. So as we go around, again, welcome you guys. I really appreciate your time and your feedback for this. I think you have a lot to offer to the people that are viewing tonight. So I'm going to start off with really the most basic question for you is, how has competition really helped you prepare for real calls and really even develop yourself as an officer? How have you gotten better? So we'll just, go around the top. Let's start with, Captain Chin.
Thanks you for letting me be on this podcast with all these great competitors as well as educators. So, when I look back at my career, when I started very similar to you in 1996, we came from the ambulance company, myself, Captain Roach, and everyone else here. We were learning as we were going. And, we would run those basic calls, and we would never get that epic call that you see in training. So when we are in competition, so when you see that particularly epic call, you look at it and you're like, okay, I got this, right? I got this. And how did we get to that particular level? Well, first we trained very, very hard. We wanted to make sure that we competed very hard. We wanted to make sure that we put the best product out there. And I think competition does that because, during your day on a 24-hour shift, you might run 1 or 2 good calls of the day. During a competition, you are running 3 to 4 to 5 consecutive good calls, and then you're running a final scenario where you have multiple patients. So when you look at the whole aspect of competition, we can't recreate those particular things when you're on shift. But during competition, you can recreate those calls several times. And those are going to be epic calls that, you're going to have to learn how to manage and take a look at, your knowledge base when it comes to that. Because every one of us before a competition, we're in the books, we're studying, we're looking up stuff. We're all calling each other. Hey, did you find this on that page too? And then, we go from there. I don't think we really do that in real calls. Maybe we should, but that is the catalyst to start with that, in my personal opinion.
Absolutely. Glenn.
Yeah, I have to agree with Tony. I actually did, I'm kind of dating myself here, but I actually did my first competition in 1981 at ClinCon.
Good Lord. Jesus.
Yeah, I was with an ambulance. And,
good for you.
So I've been around the competition arena for quite a few years, and to me, I don't think there's better training. Competition is nothing more than EMS training in my book, and you're training for the worst cases. You're training for multiple patients. As Tony said, you can go over them and over them and over them till you get that perfection that you want, that you need for the competition. Mostly when you're going up against these competitors that are here and the ones that were mentioned, like the Bocas, the Margates, the Miramars, the Braxton College. Those competitors are extremely good, and if you want to play in their ballpark, you got to be good. So it's obviously training and training and training and going over and over and over is a key factor.
Excellent. And absolutely. And we all try and outdo each other too, and like Tony said, you're looking in the fine line. And I know Tim, has competed with Kelly and Greg, you have the same, where I get phone calls and they said, "Hey, are you prepared for this, with this drug?" I'm like, "Where did you even find that? I've never even heard that before." So you're reading in such a fine area to be prepared for what someone may throw at you. And we don't ever do that in real life. I'm not prepared for that. Captain Loeb, what about you?
Well, I started out actually watching you and Tony in the very beginning. I came on my fire department in 1998, started competing in 99. Since then, I just, kind of made it a goal. My buddies and I made it a goal to start winning and try to be the best that we can possibly be. When you look at some of these things, it helps us with our confidence and our overall skill level. I remember after competing, so around August of every year, when we're at our we're at the top of our game. We've just finished with ClinCon. We're at the top of our game. I remember some of these calls being much, much easier, especially the cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
So we are respond to a call, and you have a lot of nervous energy, a lot of chaos, a lot of second guessing, a lot of trying to remember. But when you've practiced the cardiac arrest so many times, and you've memorized the medications and you've memorized the procedures so many times, that the cardiac arrest actually becomes routine, and you really start to focus on quality rather than simply just remembering what to do next. Because we're always thinking, as a competitor, you're thinking 5 or 10 steps ahead, and planning your next move.
As a competitor, I'm ready for another patient to come through the door. So
exactly.
I got stuff to do, right? I want to do it in a routine, that it just comes routine, so my eyes can be somewhere else.
You find yourself looking around. You're doing your CPR, and you find yourself looking around, waiting for the bystander to pass out.
Right. And my first, by the way, was my first watching was Sean Fix. So one of the best ones out there too, from Boca. And I was hooked when I watched, actually for the first time, a real competition. It was a finals at ClinCon. I looked and said, "There is no way I will ever be able to do that. There's no way. Look at these guys." It was impressive. And I'm sure I was all over the place in the beginning. And you develop like anything else, and you get comfortable with something. What about you, Captain Roach? And I'll get back to you, Doc. You're the most important one.
So for me, it was a little bit of a unique situation. I actually was a captain in the training division at the time when I first started competing. And the reason I started up the team was because we had a bunch of interns that we just got from high school. These were fresh off from high school graduated students that we put through a special program, trained to be paramedics and firefighters. So these new guys were so green. I thought, what a better way to get them ready for their career than to start a competition team with them. So I actually was one of the members with these individuals, and we started a secondary team. We have a long history of doing competitions in Miramar. So this was an opportunity for us to start a second team with these guys. And many of these individuals went on to be officers and very successful in the department. And for me personally, what I got out of it was I thought I knew a lot when I first got into competing as a training officer. And then I found I was there was a lot I could learn, and I learned a lot, and it helped me with the confidence, the understanding, and just teaching this material to our guys. So it was huge for me to take me to another level as well.
Right. And I think Glenn mentioned it a bunch. We need to up our game compared to where the competition is now. And we think we know it all.
Yeah.
And we run, we go into some scenarios that are like, that's not realistic. Well, of course it's not realistic. We have to one up. There's no way you're going to accomplish everything, and you're never going to be perfect. Because if we gave you the single patient cardiac arrest, like Greg said, well, what are we going to do for the other? We're done with that in 2 minutes. What are we going to do for the rest of the time? So, we do have to keep building. And I think the evolution of this, which we'll talk about, has gotten so big because of the quality of competitors that are out there. So Doc, you bring a different perspective. So we take that and, we run calls day to day. You help write a lot of these scenarios, and you come up with different things that we may not see in the field. And sometimes I got to tone you down saying, wait, it's not in the paramedic book. I can't throw these out, these teams. But you know what? From a seasoned competitor, they want that. They don't want things that are just in their protocols. Teach me the next level. And I think that can really be integrated. So, from your perspective, how really has this enhanced your medical care for the patients that you may see? You've been involved in competition for a long time.
Yep, absolutely. I came to Florida in 1988, and I think by 1990, 91, I started to go to ClinCon. And I remember, back then, most of you remember, most of the ClinCon were outdoors. Yeah. And a lot of, and that really struck me. And again, as you said, there were some competitors that were just amazing. Again, I go back to the Boca, the old BSO guys and gals that used to go there, and I was just amazed. And as an emergency physician, and truthfully, we don't get that experience so much to pre-hospital, and realizing, and I think for me personally, it has given me, really what I've done all my career, and say, hey, we can do that pre-hospital. We can take care of the MIs. We can do this. We can do that because, seeing that training and was able to do. And I think, a couple of things that were mentioned here, it's all about the training. Listen, people just don't go up to the competition a week later, oh, let's get our bags together and go. I remember, guys, and that's how, truthfully, how our Broward competition came about, how people were just studying and like Chief said, listen, going back to each other, hey, did you read this? Did you do this? And that's ultimately what happened in Broward, that sort of systems were, I remember Sunrise, North Florida, Margate, they were kind of practicing together. And that's when the First Air, First Care came about, when I say, you know what, why don't we just all get together and make it like a homegrown competition?
Yeah, we'll just give you a trophy. Yeah,
exactly. We'll talk about that later, because it used to cost me a lot of money feeding these guys. But in the meantime, it was amazing. And as everyone here said, in real calls, when we, when in sort of teaching and helping people prepare, we used to say, hey, let the captain make that 360, look around you, see what's going on, look in the pockets, look underneath the car. And truthfully, I think that relates very clearly to the real life scenarios that we do every day, that everyone is out there, doing and practicing that. So I think we'll talk a little bit more about the history, because I think it was a great history and how we got here. But I think it's all about the training. Listen, when we have to redo our boards, and when we have to do, re-up all that stuff, we have to read, we have to train, we have to listen. And it's not a one-day thing. People are doing, month after month training with each other. And I've learned more probably from you characters coming up with questions than I have in my own in my own sort of work. So it's amazing to me. I'm very proud of what we've done. I'm amazed on what you guys do. My son has become a monster in competition, which has been great for me too personally. And it's been great. It's been great learning. I remember, Bill, talking about how to teach folks. I remember when you guys used to bring me patients into the ER. I remember one clearly. I said, hey, Cardisan would have been 10 points. Everyone else, and that's how we used to kind of learn and keep going forward on that.
Sure. And, we talk about all of our experiences, but, competition gets you ready for everything. And we won't be able to say this enough to people that are viewing. And I don't care if you're last or first in competition. It's about the experience. It's about the repetition. It's about learning from every single one. of course, everyone wants to win. We're all type A personalities. We always want to win, which is why we've raised the bar here. But every team starts out at some level. And, and I appreciate the comments I'm kind of seeing across the bottom from Adam and Manny, Lee County, Margate. These are quality teams. And these are people that we all started one place. I can tell you my very first competition, I was 14th out of 17, and I was happy as can be. And I improved and I learned each time. And as you move up in the ranks, and everyone on this call is an officer, as you run these scenarios, whether you're the team leader of your team or a team member of your team, we learn to take leadership roles. Most of these final scenarios we all face are MCIs. How many MCIs do we get in our careers, truthfully? Hopefully not a lot. But if we do, I feel very comfortable that I can, assign people certain things. I'm very comfortable who to call, how to create triage and transport and treatment and staging. You know why? Because there's points for that in competition. Right. And we've all done that 50 times before we had to really apply it in real life. So, there's so many experiences how you can develop as an officer. And we'll get back to those as well, because I want your comments of how you feel that's helped you. One of the other things that's kind of developed over this time, and a lot of the competitions, is we're seeing a lot of students. We're seeing a lot of students enter as student teams and representing their schools, including Braxton College and any other college that's out there. I think it's fantastic, where we can take students that are just learning. They're going to get the same scenarios that we would get as competitors. And with that, their face is in the book more to prepare for competition, probably just as much, if not more, there is for them to complete paramedic school. They're going to raise the bar even more. And the student teams that are coming out now are phenomenal because they're so ready for structure, points on how to compete. So when they take the National Registry exam, which is a point-based thing and a system, it's nothing. It's very simple for them. They've been through this enough. So, I can give my perspective, and we've had a couple of very successful students. Dr. Gandia's son competed as a student and has worked his way all the way up to team captain of his fire department team. It's phenomenal. Josh is another, 15, 18 years ago, was a student of ours and did phenomenal. And now, he's in a training division of fire department. So, we look at the success stories. And I think, Glenn, you're the best to comment on this. As a faculty member of Palm Beach State, your students continually do phenomenal at these competitions. So, how do you, if there's students that are watching and their school doesn't have it, their instructors aren't involved in competition, what message would you send them? What are the benefits and how can they do this, as students?
Yeah, sure. I started the ALS competition team here at the college back in 2004 because of what we've said before, that it's it's extra training. It's above and beyond the curriculum that they have every day through the school. And typically, obviously, we have a bunch that, and over the year they fade out because they realize the amount of work, because they not only have their school curriculum, they have their work, their social life and everything, and now this is on top of it. It's just a little too much. But at the flip side to that is routinely throughout the year, scenarios, ACLS time, PHTLS time, PALS time, all those, the competitors, the student competitors routinely perform better during those scenarios and those times than a lot of the other students, just because they get exposed to so many different scenarios, so many, and what we said earlier, they get to practice and practice and practice. It does take a lot of work and a lot of time, and I felt it was very important. The other aspect is networking for the students.
Yes.
that these students are going for jobs when they graduate, and they're competing against a big pool of people out there for these few, compared to the amount of students. So they need something to hopefully look better. So medical scenarios, they usually look much better because they've been practicing. They're rubbing elbows with you guys, the chiefs of the departments, the high-ranking individuals of departments. You guys get to see them.
It's a free look.
Yeah, I one of my first speeches to the new potential students is, this is a job interview. It's a year-long job interview. So you're going to see a lot of people. You're going to be professional. Blah, blah, blah. And so that was the real reason that I started this team, because I felt it was very important as I was a new medic working my way up.
Right.
I felt it helped me through my career. I wanted to pass it on to these students and help them through their career.
It's funny, you talk about a job interview, right? So, we interact with these students at all the competitions. We can clearly see sometimes they go, wow, look at that student. We watch and we see and go, what's that person's name over there? Yeah, who is that? And we make those little mental notes. And what I would also say when we talk about job interview, students that don't have an EMS background, right? They're students. They're going through EMT school, paramedic school. They don't have a lot to put on that resume or to that application. Representing their school in a competition team, an ALS competition team, when you're applying for agencies that do competition, they immediately see value in that. They know the dedication that it took, that you already went above. And I think that's a great resume builder. Even if you don't win the competitions, doesn't matter.
Right.
You are putting yourself ahead of it. And I saw Manny Sanchez's comment across there. Thanks, Manny. And you're absolutely right. I think that they do have an advantage.
Right.
And you can see the difference when they come to work. That that's the one that was dedicated to move on. So I think that's fantastic.
I think not only.
I wanted to mention. Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to mention about when we talk about the student teams and all that. But you got to remember, many times it really the whole class or the whole institution gets involved, because when we're practicing, we say, "Hey, I need an actor, or I need a judge, or I need somebody to help me with this," and then not just the 3 or 4 folks from that are on the team. And then really it kind of gets other folks involved too, and gets sort of the bug. But, we almost the whole class or the whole institution gets involved in that type of training, because we're always looking for actors, helpers, or whatever. And it really becomes a great thing for the whole institution. The other thing I wanted to mention also, is the fact that, when these teams are sitting with these competitors, and I always tell them, I said, listen, one of these persons could be your interviewer in next year, in 6 months, and truthfully, they appreciate the culture, because not only are you representing yourself during the competition, but outside the competition, when we're around the restaurants, when we're around the vendors, when we're out, so forth, you got to continue to act professionally, because these folks are going to be looking at you. I remember once, and Bill can attest to this, I remember one chief turned around to us and says, "I'm going to hire all those 3 guys on that."
I remember the guys.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember that conversation. They hired the whole team.
Yep. I know those 3 individuals well.
But they put it out there and they did great. They represented themselves well.
Bill,
Greg, you had a comment? I'm sorry, Tony. Greg, you had a comment?
No, I was just gonna agree with them that we all know that your reputation precedes you. And, it's up to the student or the applicant, it's up to the student to create a good reputation or a bad reputation from the very beginning.
Yes.
And volunteering and going above and beyond and really working towards this high level of success definitely works towards a good reputation, which definitely carries over to your job interview, your rookie year, and so on.
Confidence alone in the job interview.
Performance anxiety. I mean, how many of the job interviews, the mega codes, the ALS, hiring process.
Right, right.
Students walk in, or new applicants walk in, and a lot of it's performance anxiety. They just this helps them get well over that performance anxiety.
And it would probably be the same with rookies, that we don't take advantage of it, right? How do we not take the probationary teams or make competition teams out of them and let them go? They're going to study because they're not going to want to fall on their face, basically. Right. So, Tony, you had a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to, what you said about, the students are going to be, better. They're going to be studying. We as instructors, especially when it comes to the competition aspect, we should really challenge our students to go ahead and become better, right? Because it takes a little bit of effort to be good, but it takes a lot of effort to be great. And we want all of our students to become great, right? So when you look at that particular aspect, let them accept the challenge of a competition where it's not just going against a grade book. You're going against other people. You're going against other schools. You're going against fire departments, and letting them know, accept the challenge, and then you will become as great as we are or were in Vito's eyes. And, we can go from there. But, you look at students today as a whole, you have to be able to challenge them or it becomes bored. And
I think from a student perspective, Tony, this gives them instant feedback of how much they truly do know. Most students finish up and go, I don't know how much I really know. And then they go through a competition and say, listen, you would have placed 15th out of these 25 fire department teams or EMS agencies. Do you realize you beat all of these professionals that are there because you prepared? Not that you're better, but you prepared. It shows that you do belong in the discussion. You still have to apply it in real life, but it does give them the confidence that they need to move forward in their career. Hopefully we can instruct them. You're not better than those, but you belong. You're starting to grasp, what's out there and what it takes, which I think is great. So, let's really get to the meat and potatoes of this. We've been at it for a half hour already. If you guys are going to give your suggestions, to whoever's watching now and wherever they're watching, around the country, how could they get their department, their agency, and whether you're a private agency, EMS responder, or fire department, and several of these competitions have a BLS division, even though that's decreasing quite a bit. You don't see many of those, and I'll let Greg comment on that, because Greg and Glenn probably are the only ones that may have that at this point. Most have a student division, but geez, that's an old picture. So, how do we suggest these agencies, where do they even start if they don't have any guidance? So let me talk to you, Tim. You started, with your group. How would you suggest someone who doesn't have the chief that has competed before, that even understands this concept? Where do they go?
I would say the first thing is find 2 other individuals that are interested in doing this and get a team together. And then approach
3, right? 3 minimum.
Teams of 3, yeah. Right? Get 3 guys that really want to do this and form together. That's going to be the hardest part, is really finding the people to do this with. And then approach one of your chiefs and go up the ranks. Typically, EMS division chief may be able to make those decisions, or the head chief of your department, depending upon the agency size, and approach them. Say, hey, listen, this is what we'd like to do. Can we start up a team? And go from there. If you can reach out to other teams, it would be very helpful so that you can identify the equipment that you need to get. I think that's the next hardest thing, is trying to put your stuff together. But it's relatively cheap to put a team together. You want that upper administration support to help pay for things, but you can also come up with funding on your own. There's a lot of different ways to go out there and find funding to help pay for going to these competitions.
And we'll get to each of the competitions that are out there and maybe some of the costs involved. Glenn, you had some comments about how you can, how can you start? How are you going to pay for this?
I can look at both views. I'm retired from Palm Beach County, so I started Palm Beach, help start some of the Palm Beach County teams. And usually administration is very for it. And then when they start seeing some money having to go out, an issue, and some of that support may wane. The avenue I like to take is this is not a competition. It is a competition, but it's training. And departments are a lot easier to open their checkbook for training than what they perceive as fun competition.
It's funny, you would send someone to a $200 class without hesitation.
Right.
But a $250 registration fee for 3 people seems, I don't know. You're right.
Yeah,
that's the angle.
What's the difference than taking engine 1, 2, and 3, taking them out of service, bringing them to a tower and doing a hose evolution or some type of organized fire training? That is no problem whatsoever. If you turned around and said that this is now a competition, engine 1, 2, and 3 would now work together, study, practice, so they can beat each other. And that training obviously equates to proficiency. And also that equates a trickle-down effect throughout the department. So that's the avenue that I like to take, is this is training.
And that's a great avenue, because training budgets, it's tough because they consider some of this as travel sometimes. And this,
right, 100%.
This is just part of the training. You're right. It's not necessarily travel.
So when I go to chiefs now, that's the avenue I say that this is organized training. Yeah, do we got to bring home a trophy and bragging rights? That's always fun.
Yeah.
And that looks good for your department. That just raises your department even if you get to bring a trophy home. Yep. But the whole idea is it's EMS training. And through here at the college, I started the competition, the Panther Challenge here at the college, just to add another competition. And I felt it was we have a student team, so why don't we throw a competition together? And that was kind of the avenue that I started here too, was that we're an educating facility. Yep. This is an education scenario, and let's obviously bid off on it and allow me to do it, since this will be our eighth year or so.
Right. And that's yours. And we're going to get to each one of the competitions that are out there, and they each have their own kind of background and stuff. Greg, you work for a large department, and just because it's large doesn't mean the budget is proportionate. Sometimes it's different. So how would you suggest, listen, from a one station or a volunteer department or an EMS agency or a private department, how would you suggest they go about starting?
Really, the way that we looked at it was always about representing our department, putting on a good front or a good show for our department. You'll notice that in some of the competitions that some of the spectators or people will go look at certain teams and certain departments. Right now, they're going to look at Palm Beach College, and everybody wants to see them regardless of how well they place, because they represent very well and they perform very well. And then, of course, they also want to see them surprise a few people. And just the idea of being able to represent the department and just make the chief proud and make the chief, give the chief something to talk about and give the chief something to brag about. And then you continue to compete, you place well, you come back with trophies after some very good performances, and then you have something for the chief to take to
and success obviously opens up the wallet a little bit more, right? If you're doing well, you get more and more support, even though it shouldn't be that way, but that's realistic.
That's the truth.
And Manny, thank you for your comments, and he's right. You might need political involvement. If you start bringing home even pictures, even things that you've competed. If I'm a volunteer department or an EMS agency or private ambulance, and I've gone and competed against some of the largest departments in this country, and say, hey, look what we just did. We're on the stage with, I may not have a big trophy, and that's irrelevant, but here we are with everybody else. We put ourselves out there, and, those go pretty far with the commissioners. The local hospitals can give you some funding. I see the medical director in capital letters, Doc. You got to open up your checkbook. So even fundraisers, and again, we'll get to the other competitions that are out there, but some can get pretty expensive that your agency probably won't pay for. You're going to have to go the extra mile and raise a little bit of money, especially the rally and things like that, which we'll get to. But those are options for you. So we talked about how we can really get these get into a competition. What if you want to host one? Just all of us on this call have hosted a competition, all for different backgrounds, why we started it. And I know, Glenn, you touched, and I'll start with Dr. Gandia of why the original, I know you mentioned it really as a practice run, but where you were now and really how someone where do you start, if you want to host one of these things?
Yeah, I think, listen, just historically, I have to mention that, we started ours, gosh, I hate to say it, probably 26, 27 years ago. And it really became, as I said, from a group of systems that were practicing together. And we decided, hey, can we do this and, just have a little competition? And truthfully, we went right to the hospitals. And somehow we convinced University Hospital, and we used their parking lot. And we went ahead and did it. We borrowed cars, we borrowed equipment from everybody else. I pay for all the freaking lunches and the trophies, and that goes to Manny, by the way. But anyway, but and then I had to do it a couple of times because the girls kept grabbing my credit card, saying these guys really eat a lot. And some of the pictures that Freddie was kind enough to put up, I think there was a big group picture. I think that was one of our first competition. But really, we got the support from the hospitals, and truthfully, nowadays they really are looking at EMS, are really looking at the fire service and how they can support the fires, their local fire departments and so forth. And I think that's a very good ground to go to get support. And truthfully, again, it wasn't hard to do because everyone in town was willing to pitch in. And that was great because, we needed some equipment. We would reach out to one of the, we have that in our training center. Okay, great. We needed the bomb squad who came out with us.
Yes.
Too.
That was the very first one. You had a bomb squad there. Yeah.
Right. We got the SWAT team out many times, And as I said, I'm proud to say that our first competition dealt with, one of our first competitions in about 1999 dealt with, look at those pictures. Oh my Lord. One of our first competition dealt with stroke and how to do the FAST exam and where to take them and so forth. So, you just have to be creative and you'll be surprised how much support you'll get, especially when you reach out to your other systems around. Hey, you guys can help, and everyone comes up with whatever you need. It's amazing how it came together, and now we're a huge competition. We have we added the conference as well. And we're super proud of that. And that really, I think, led to all the other competitions around town that say, hey, we can do that too. And then kind of, kept going back to each other. Oh, what did you guys do? Oh, we got to top that and so forth. And that's what drove me crazy because now it gets harder and harder for me.
It gets harder and harder. Absolutely. We got to trump the next one.
Yep.
Yeah. So, just like Tim was saying, the first step in developing your team is you got to find two other, teammates. If you want to develop a competition, to follow some teams. So if you're in a region that doesn't have these competitions, your first is put the feelers out. Do you have 2 or 3 or 4 agencies or even teams that may want to, put their hat in the ring and compete? And I think to run a competition or to organize one of these, the easiest way to do is come see one. Come see how it runs and grab any one of us or anyone that runs these competitions. Go, okay, how would you do it? I can guarantee you that anyone that is in the ALS competition arena will hand you everything that they have for you to succeed. And that could be scoring templates to how they do registration, to budgets, anything, because we all do this to enhance competition. So there is no competition amongst us other than we all want to get better competitions. But we all talk amongst ourselves and go, hey, what date is yours going to be? And I'll do mine here so we can space these out. Nobody tries to compete against each other from our region. And we have a lot in the state of Florida, a lot of competitions, which we'll get to. But, if you're in a region that doesn't have one, feel free to reach out to us through the college. Email me. I can put you in touch with, any of the people on this call or multiple people. We might even know some people in your region And you can go to our website there and you can reach out to me and I can help you develop that, because the more providers, the more people we have throughout this country doing this, the better we all are. Because no doubt you raised the bar from your region. So Greg and Glenn run a large competition as well. You know, any other suggestions you would have of how people can start their own?
Greg, you want to start?
Well, actually, going back to, you know, when I first started competing, we had Broward and Clinton.
Right.
But then shortly after that, Miami-Dade College started their competition.
Yep.
But then it started to get interesting when you guys started your competition at another school.
Right.
And then things started to get really creative. And when you guys started running yours, and then Boca Raton started to run theirs, which is an excellent competition.
Yeah.
Then we started to get really creative and really elaborate, complicated, and but it really turned into a good learning experience for all of us.
But we didn't get there overnight, right?
No,
So if they're in a region that doesn't have one, our original, like Doc said, was in a parking lot. We threw some victims in a car and had some simulated stuff, and it was great. Now, now it's a studio production.
Right. In Miami-Dade College, it was simply in the auditorium of the college, and you walked in and you competed.
Right.
But the quality was there, the scenario was there, everything was very, very good. And then
I'm sorry, Greg. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying one of the things about being creative and about being in the region and having people come, we've had competitions on cruise ships and people came and we competed and we, so talking about getting creative.
It might be for a different reason, but
the competition was still
competition,
good.
Absolutely.
It was still, you still had to be on your game. And, talking about regional stuff, you say, you know what, I don't have so many people around the area, but we've done competition in Flagler County and people came there. Temple Terrace is a perfect example. Listen, people come from all over. So if you think, well, I don't have so many folks interested, but they'll come. And then, you put on a good competition, people will come and enjoy it.
Yeah, the thing about the competitions is that they're so much fun for all the competitors, not only to compete, it's just to meet up with all the members of other teams and other departments. That we had guys travel from here to Nebraska to compete.
Oh, and Nebraska's another,
and it was, they had a really great time. But the other thing is, I think that developing these scenarios, developing these competitions, and trying to think up new things, it helps everybody for the what if factor for the real world emergency.
And you know what? Doesn't matter where you work. The event, that scenario could happen to you. Although in Nebraska, they may have something a little bit different than we may get in South Florida. But, there's calls that we try and replicate in competition. And again, it doesn't matter. This was us in the Bahamas. This was a while ago. But it doesn't matter where you work. And Greg, you're a prime example. When we look at this, just this panel right here, I work in a very small fire department, and we were very successful in competition. And, Tim and Tony are in, smaller to medium fire departments compared to Greg at Miami-Dade and Glenn at Palm Beach County. Very large, 50 station plus, huge. But you know what? We sat at the same table and we were all just competitors. Mm-hmm. No one cared where you worked.
Right.
You were a medic and you're a competitor. And you know what? You proved yourself individually and you gained that respect and you gained confidence as a medic. Yes, you represent your agency, which you should be proud of, but you're immediately accepted into this circle and you're sitting at the table. You're not like, oh, them or that, and we get that some people like, I don't know if I want to compete. It's just a bunch of these agencies or just fire departments or just EMS responders. Listen, it could be anyone. Most of the rules say you have to have at least one medic on your team, but some have nurses, which is a different type of competition or a different thought process. But, you shouldn't be afraid of that if you're thinking about competing or running a competition of the size of your agency how you respond or anything, because I can tell you you're immediately welcome at the table at these competitions for sure, and regardless of the patch on the
right. That's very important, Chief, because when new competitors say, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to be competing against these folks that have been doing it for 5, 10, 15 years." But you're welcome. I mean, they may play some tricks on you, but you are welcome, and that actually shows how much they welcome you. The more they harass you or play tricks on you, that means you're more welcome into that crowd and in that circle. And new competitors are really wonderfully welcome, which is really a lot to say. From
and
that.
we've all met. Built some friendships too from Nebraska and Joey and Jimmy and all the FDNY guys, and that I would have never interacted with them at that level in any way, which was
those
great.
guys came to our competitions. Remember?
Yeah, exactly. They came to the Bahamas.
Bill, you bring up a very good point about the EMS community. It's a very tight-knit EMS fraternity. And when we look at all of the contacts that we've made and the networking that we've made and the competitions that we've lost and the competitions that we've won, it's only created us to be better people, not only better people, better officers, better competitors, and overall better paramedics, because we learn from everyone, from Nebraska, from FDNY, from Prague, from all those places that all of us have been competed on, at a high level for many, many years. So you look back at all of the relationships that you've built, and if you didn't get involved by doing competitions, you would have never had those relationships in the first place, and you probably wouldn't have learned as much as you did.
Learning is so key, because I think each one of us, we kind of judge with each other's competition. And when we see your scoring sheets before the competition starts, we look at them and go, man, God, first of all, I want to compete because this would be fun to go through. But you are just a deranged individual for the things that you think of. But we're not afraid to go, hey, I think you're wrong here. I think from a competitor standpoint, this is probably what teams are going to do. Are you ready for this? And we're all respectful of each other. Now, didn't think about that. We may need to look at this real quick. I may need to make some changes right now to make it as fair as possible to the teams. So I think that's important if you're running a competition, to have someone involved, if possible, that has competed, to help you write, so they can realize, hey, teams may go this direction, be prepared for that, and maybe build it within your scoring. And I think that comes with time as well, right? Okay, so we're 48 minutes into this. Let's talk about the ones that are available. For the people that want to compete right now, you're watching this and go, you know what, this would be fun. Let me grab the 2 guys, 2 gals, whoever you want, and come and compete. So we run a lot through South Florida. So we'll talk about a few because we're here. First Air, First Care. Doc talked about the one that started in the parking lot of the hospital. So that competition used to be just a neighborhood university hospital kind of competition. It made its own name. It was adopted a little bit later as the Broward Invitational, and the fire chiefs started to fund it a little bit, the countywide fire chiefs. And now it's evolved into this First Air, First Care conference. Happens to be coming up in just 2 weeks at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood. And we do a full-fledged 2-day competition there. And we're almost full. Like, there might be 1 spot available for teams that want to jump in, or anyone that wants to jump in. But that one's run every year about this time as part of the conference, and it is always in the Fort Lauderdale area. We're at the Hard Rock now. We hope to be at the Hard Rock again upcoming. So in 2022, and I'm almost positive it will be there. But you can always go to First Air, First Care Conference, and you'll see that little tab for registration, and you'll see things for the ALS competition team. So my suggestion is, if you happen to be in the area, you want to travel, watching one is great. Seeing what it's like. Volunteering in one is another good one. And judging. Just getting involved so you understand the concept, that's going to help you as a competitor. The only one that I also want to mention is Fire Rescue East, only because I'm involved in those too, so I can speak on those behalf. Fire Rescue East is run from the Florida Fire Chiefs Association, and it's usually in Daytona. It may move, but right now it's in Daytona in the end of January, beginning of February every year. So they're almost ready to start registration for 2022. That's usually limited to anywhere 15 to 20 teams, right in that ballpark. Students are welcome. There is no BLS division, but if you're EMTs and you want to go through an ALS scenario, you are more than welcome. You're not going to achieve all the same points, but I guarantee you'll have a good learning experience as well. But so that is open to any agency. And when I keep saying agencies, we've competed as the college before. I've seen people compete as unions. I've seen people compete as hospital because their fire department or their EMS agency, it's not that they don't have the funding. Maybe they just can't allocate the funding or whatever. They get a T-shirt from somebody else. They borrow some equipment. They get a couple $100 from somebody, and off they go. So when it comes to costs, First Air, First Care, and Fire Rescue East are around the $250 registration fee. Hotels are hotels. You don't always have to stay at the host hotel. We recommend it so you're around everything. So those are the two that I'm involved in. The next one on my list is ClinkCon. So ClinkCon used to be, well, it's still the state conference one in the summertime. So, that's a very large competition. It has BLS student division and ALS division. Greg and Glenn are both on that committee. So feel free to kind of promote what you have going on, when it's upcoming, how people can get involved.
Go ahead, Greg. You're the head.
Well, ClinkCon has been around for over 35 years. We've been evolving. Back in the early days, we were the only competition around, and then it has kind of sprouted out these other competitions. It's run by the EMLRC, and we are normally in Orlando every year. However, with some scheduling difficulties and things like that, we're normally there in July, but it looks like we may be looking at late September this year. Once we find out the exact date, we'll be able to publish that, and we'll let everybody know. There are a lot of we have had up to 70 teams. When you and I, when we all first started competing in the 90s, we were competing with 70 teams.
Yep. International too.
Yes.
International.
That's I chaired that committee during those times, and that's where these gray hairs come from.
Right. Well, that's why I'm losing my hair now. But that's where FDNY came from. We finally figured out a way to get FDNY to come down, and since then they ended up going all over the place. They won a few competitions and they put on their own. I kind of, we have a long history. We have a travel trophy, and it's just a lot of tradition and history with ClinkCon. Once we are able to solidify our dates for this year, we'll be able to publish that and put that out to everybody so that we can start registering, and then we hope to see everybody there.
So First Air, First Care is in 2 weeks. ClinkCon probably September. Fire Rescue East late January of each year. The next is the Palm Beach Panther Challenge. So with Palm Beach State, Glenn?
Yes, the Panther Challenge is normally the first Friday of April, and obviously this good old COVID thing put a big snafu in a lot of things. So we had to cancel it last year, and we had to push it back this year, as ClinkCon had to try to get allow more of the COVID to settle, the dust settle before we actually had it. So we're set for July 30th, and
there you go. Usually, it's up on the screen now.
Yes, and we usually limit it to 16 teams, just because we run multiple scenarios, and it's a logistics issue with us, so that's why we leave it to about 16 teams. We do have student division. We encourage student division because obviously this is what we do.
Yeah, you're the college, right?
So we really like that, and we've had student teams. We also do an educational thing at the end, which is kind of unique. Dr. Shepke takes our scenarios and actually breaks down each patient and kind of gives a little rundown of why we did this and the whole bit. And part of the reason as we've stated before, it's getting more and more difficult to make these scenarios, because the last thing I want is a Margate, Miramar, Braxton, Boca, any of them to come in and go, really? That's all it was?
So, that's all you're giving me? Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
I expected more from you, Glenn.
Yeah, exactly. But I do want to address one thing. We made a statement earlier about how some of this people perceive this as unrealistic. At least my standpoint is, when it comes to EMS, nothing is unrealistic.
Greg or Glenn, I competed in your competition 2 years ago, and we had 21 patients on one of the scenarios.
Yeah.
So I mean, okay, my hands were up on that one. I was a little tired. I was winded, at the end of it, which I always think is good when you host a competition, when teams are done and they're sweating. Going, holy cow, that's the expression I want. Well, that's what I want at the end.
I always want to bring something to the surface that, like we did in, the hypothermic, the ice fishing, how many times do you see ice fishing in Florida?
Right.
But, always want to bubble something to the surface to help with that educational aspect. So we usually do it in the first Friday of April. And we're always looking for judges. We talked about earlier, people volunteering. If anybody's on here that's interested in judging, we'd love to have judges. And
same
and
for any of these competitions, right?
Exactly.
We always need help with that.
Exactly.
Yeah, always.
The logistics is putting one of these on is quite intense.
It's huge. It's huge.
We talked about starting teams, and what a better way to start team if you could come to volunteer at one of these competitions and see exactly behind the scenes. And I was a competitor for many, many years, but I honestly can tell you, being not a competitor now, I learned just as much behind the scenes as I did when I was competing as well. So looking up all of these scenarios, vetting all of the patients, and making sure that we understand what exactly we want our competitors to do is just as rewarding as actually going out there and getting that patient and competing against it.
So there's a bunch that are out there. Gems Games or EMS Today hosts one every year. This year's in Texas. Some of the newer ones that are out there, Rescue Company 1, which is out of Orlando, great Orlando competing team, Carlos and Josh and their team that have created a very good critical care scenario. You better be in the books. You think you're going to the Rescue Company 1 competition, because it's going to be critical. And you could just Google search them and find their competition. FDNY does one each year. It's not going to go on this year due to COVID and a lot of their restrictions. But Temple Terex had done one, which is usually a large competition, a couple days long, and they're teaming up with Rescue Company 1 as well to run that large competition. And please reach out to these, because I think the more you do this and you see everyone's little perspective on this, you're that much better. You're more well-rounded, better experience, more scenarios, the better. The last one I want to talk about before I kind of give you guys final word is the rally. The rally, if you're into competition, I guarantee your department's not going to write this check. That's the Rescue Company 1 competition. And that looks like it's October 1st and 2nd. So the rally is in Prague, in the Czech Republic. We had the privilege, as did Tim, Greg, and you went up there too, right? You said once? We all went to that competition at different times. And there's over 100 teams from all over the world. So you can represent your area, your agency. Most of us represented USA. So it was great. And they have a paramedic division. They have a paramedic physician division, which we got to compete in because Dr. Gandia was with us on the team. 4-person teams. So it's a little bit different. Now, I would highly suggest you go once. It is a 24 to 30 hour competition, and you compete throughout a typical shift. So you may be at 3 in-the-morning, at 5 in-the-morning, at midnight. They had zip lining. You had to rappel into things. Very elaborate throughout the mountains in the Czech Republic. About 3 hours north of Prague, about that. You got to take a bus, and they give you that for you to get up to a ski resort, which is closed because it's normally in May. I see this year they're doing it in October. First of all, we would all die competing in Prague in October. I couldn't put enough clothes on, with my gear, and we had to take our clothes off to go through a creek as well. So I don't know how they're going to do some of those things, but incredible competition, multi-language, and we competed in English, and you'll be very successful. But great experience to compete against Poland and Russia and Prague and Japan and Greece, and we met so many people that were there that are all doing the same things that we do. It was really, really neat, and I would highly suggest that you got to show our championship. So we won gold there, represent the U.S. And it was awesome. It was really, really good. Great experience.
And you know what, Bill?
Yes, sir.
All these people from all these different countries, they were basically all part of the same fraternity.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We're all part of the same club.
Yep. And there's our boy Kelly that was in that picture as well. So,
Chief, I got to jump in because, you guys have said you competed, and now you're on this side, making up scenarios and so forth. And I had the opportunity to always write scenarios and be on the other side as a competitor and have that. And it was the most amazing experience in my life. The brotherhood, like you said, from all over the world, it was amazing, to do that for 24 hours and then bring home the gold wasn't too bad either. But
that wasn't too bad either. And for us, when we won, it was Japan was second and Germany was third, right? So, it's not like the same circle that we run here.
Being on the other side was an incredible, amazing experience.
So, and those are great. So tons of competitions, a lot of availability, definitely through Florida. Nebraska, as Greg had mentioned, I'm not sure if they're still doing it in Nebraska. I'd have to check. Right. So, but there's a bunch that are out there, and some change a little bit. Some have two-person competitions. Some formats are a little different. Like Gems Games is a little different than others. I would recommend, again, the best way to learn from this is jump in. Again, 14th out of 17th, my first one, happy as can be. So you will start out at a certain level, and it's okay. And you'll learn, and you'll go. And once you do it, you're going to be better for it as a provider. Your agency is going to be well represented, and you will just want to do more. And you're going to want to travel. And most of us were, at the 20-year mark before we said, you know what, this is a young man's game to repel into scenarios now and do all this and crawl around and drag patients, and so we can still do it. So I don't want to. We can still do it, but we're choosing to write them and trying to create the experience for others.
Listen, I got to mention quickly that you guys made me repel because at Doc at 50 points, you're jumping off the freaking roof.
Points. He either repelled or he got thrown off. So he was going. 50 points is a lot of points. Yep. Right. So really, we've been at this an hour. I really do appreciate it. I hope the people that are watching kind of get an idea and sit there and go, you know what, let me give this a try. And you know what, and for the ones that are competitors, especially in the state of Florida, Florida has taken that to the next level, and Greg really held that up of saying, you know what, we have all these competitions. How do we truly do the best? So I'm going to finish with Greg because he can add that to where he took it to the next level. So, but I'm going to, each one of you, just kind of your parting comments. For me, if you're watching and you want to do it, there shouldn't be anything that holds you back. It's a $200 registration fee. You can beg, bar, and steal, do a car wash, and you can come to your first competition. And just come and enjoy it and see what it's about, and I guarantee you'll be better off because of it. I've seen very few teams ever compete once and never again. They go, oh, I'm going to try the next one, or I'll try one full year. And then maybe, and yes, it is time consuming. So that is the only kind of delay people may have. But I would highly suggest getting into it. If you're a fire chief, you're an EMS supervisor, you're a politician, whoever's watching this, I would encourage your agency. I would go out to my personnel and go, hey, I watched this webcast about competition. If we paid the bill, would you go? Because sometimes coming from you, that takes the boundaries out of the way. I think your personnel would want to do it. So if you have the ability to take the boundaries out of the way, do it. And for us as a college, we can do that, for schools. Hey, students, you want to go? We got it. Kelly, we'll take the boundaries out. You're already ready to go. So, I would encourage those people to do that. So we'll go around. We'll leave it last for Greg. Tony.
So
Any parting words?
Again, just a great podcast. I mean, I look at this podcast, I look at the board here. I see about 40 winning competitions there between all of us and some of the people that are on there. So we got some,
I just had one.
Yeah, and you have
I've had one, a big one, but you got it.
You got a gold medal, so that's the huge one. But it goes right back to our level of comfortability when we're on these calls. It goes back to our commitment to hone our craft, right? So we look at ourselves back, 20 years ago, some even longer. Either you're writing the scenario, you're getting ready for a scenario, we're studying, we're putting our head in the books, we're calling other people, hey, you prepared for this, you prepared for that. Are you going to carry this drug? Are you going to carry that drug? What type of equipment you're using? And, we all feed off each other because, like Greg said, we're in a really tight-knit fraternity, right? So we look at all of these aspects and we say to ourselves, at the end of the day, what does it do? Well, it creates a better paramedic. And whether you're a company officer or whether you're an educator or whether you're just going to be a competitor, it's going to create a better paramedic. You're going to have a better knowledge of the medical basis of what you do. You're going to have a comfortability factor that is going to be second to none when it comes to the real call on the real ground when we run that real particular call. So I can honestly tell you from my career spanning about 30 years now, I'm comfortable on calls, even the hard calls, because I was a competitor. And I say to myself, okay, I'm a company officer, I'm a captain, but my crew is not going to be in the dark when it comes to anything medical. And the reason why that is because I was a competitor. I learned those particular things, and I went to war with my brothers. So for me, that's where I am with the educational aspect of competition.
Awesome. And Chris, I'll answer your question real quick before we move on to Glenn. Suggestions for first-time competitors. I can tell you the best way to score is learning how scoring is done. You're going to compete and you're going to treat patients, but you're going to lose. You're going to forget about all the little things that count in competition that may not count in real life. And I think if you've judged, you've been involved where you see scoring sheets, and you can reach out to me. I'll send you old scoring sheets to any competition we've had, because sometimes when judges are going down the list and you say, I'm checking this, checking that, if you don't talk in that way and they're trying to find the thing on the scoring sheet that is going to give you points, they're going to miss some other things that you've said. And that's just human nature. So my suggestion always to new competitors is learn how the scoring is, talk that way, and learn priority. Learn priority and say, well, I know it's going to be more points. I'm going to concentrate on that. Why is it more points? Because hopefully it's more life-threatening, and it probably takes more time to do. So I'm going to concentrate my time there would be my suggestion. But your speech has to be in that order, really to maximize your time. That'd be my suggestion. Glenn.
Yeah. Me next?
Party words. You're next.
Oh, okay. Kind of just tag up with Tony that competition literally helped me throughout my entire career. My first competition, as I said earlier, wasn't even with the fire department. It was before the department. Retired as an EMS captain, and it literally helped me throughout my entire career. For those unusual calls, and I still have phone calls of people I've trained, other competitors that I competed with, saying, hey, I ran this call as if we were in competition and it went flawless. And that's where it really, pays off is,
Yep.
This is all fun and games, but as I said before, it's training when the boots on the ground, that's where it pays off. And it has literally helped me throughout my entire career, and also hang out with some pretty neat people and network with some pretty incredible paramedics and physicians throughout the years.
And that's incredible. That's great that we're prepared. And at the end of the day, if we can provide better patient care, that's the name of the game. And I know Carlos and Josh, hopefully they're watching, but out of Orlando, those guys have been competing for years, and they responded to the Pulse nightclub shooting, and they said that gave them some comfort. They were used to seeing multiple patients, and not that any scene like that would be easy, but when you simulated it so many times, there's a little bit of comfort. Maybe not a lot, but more than the next person, right? Because at least you've been through the repetition before. Tim?
What I would say is go for it. Don't hold back. I think a lot of people, when they're seeing this, they're intimidated. A lot of us have been competing for many years. I think the best advice I got initially when I first did my first competition is enjoy it, go for it, keep studying, keep working hard. You'll eventually get at the top. None of us won right off the back on the first competition we did. It took some of us many, many years until we started winning. So just do it. Go for it. It will change your career drastically. I can tell you, for me, it did hugely impacted my career by doing this. And then I wanted to just end on the, for those of us that do competitions, I was touched a couple of weeks ago. One of the competitors had basically texted me and said, "Hey, listen, I had a call last night. It was one of the patients that was really difficult in the competition you did. And I knew what it was because of your competition. I learned from it." So that to me is what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Learning. So just do it.
There's no better respect than that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. Doc?
Yeah, I think really like Chief McGrath mentioned earlier, listen, you're always going to do it. Like from the student perspective, I think it's important to really start because they feel more comfortable. They have the networking, they're exposed to all these great competitors, and truthfully at all these competitions, they also network with a lot of chiefs and so forth. That's really key. And I think at the end of the day, it makes them a much better medic and certainly a much better rookie as they start off. And talking about, how the competition bug, I mean, truthfully, we go from students to competitors that retired and come back and we can't get rid of them. Excuse me, Kelly, and they come back. So it's just an amazing feeling. It's an amazing brotherhood. I was fortunate enough again to be able to do it once, and it was one of the best times of my life. But at the end of the day, we all become better providers. We become better for our community and the patients we treat. No question about it. And it's sort of infectious within the system, within the schools that you're at, et cetera. And it really makes a huge difference. I'm just so proud of where we've come from one competition, many, many years ago to so many quality competitions that we have here in the state.
Yep. And you're batting 1,000, Doc, just so you know, which is a better average than all of us for sure.
That's it. I'm quitting, buddy. I'm quitting.
Right, that's the way to go. In and out, and done. Yeah.
You got medal? You got medal?
Same numbers.
You got medal? Yeah. All right. Greg, and you put together an interesting philosophy to really kind of bring all this together in Florida for us.
Well, we've mentioned this a couple of times that you're in the company of some very, very good paramedics, very, very good firefighters, and very good leaders. You could come in last place, like I have before, and still do very, very well.
Yeah.
You could hit all the marks. You can hit all the points that you've got. You miss something here and there, and that's the difference between first place and 9th place or 10th place. Yep. And but the thing is that you're still doing very, very well. So, when we first started, we were only going to ClinCon. So this was a year's worth of training for 8 minutes of or die.
Exactly.
So now we have all these other competitions, but the thing is that anybody can have a bad day. But it's as in life and as in the fire service, it's consistency that really shows the quality of the team and the skill of the paramedic. So what we've done, and Tim is part of our committee. We put together a system where we'll assign points for how well you did, all the way up until 10th place. So you get 10 points for first place, 1 point for 10th place, and if you compete in all these competitions. Now, it's not perfect. Some of the departments, they run their own competitions and they can't compete in that competition. So we drop your lowest score. So if you didn't compete, we simply drop the score, try to make it as fair as possible for everybody. A couple of years, a couple of our teams have really, shined, and it was a blowout. Last year, they were neck and neck all the way up until the very end. And the winning team was Palm Beach County. And the winning team, it's not that they came out of nowhere, because they are solid.
Yep.
And then they were, actually they ended up going in right after Super Bowl. That next morning, they went up to see the governor in Tallahassee and receive an award from the governor. And then, of course, then COVID hit.
And this is based on the Florida Cup. So that's what it's called.
The Florida Cup.
Yep.
So one of the interesting things about the Florida Cup is also when you compete and you do well, and then maybe you do well again, now you're ranked. So you can also take that to your chief. Hey, chief, we're ranked in 6th place. We got a chance.
We got to go to the next one.
Yeah, got to go to the next one, right? I got to go.
It's something that's something to be proud of, is when you're ranked coming through the year. And what we do is we do have a season. It's been a little bit disrupted by COVID, and then hopefully
we'll be back. Everything will be back.
Right. Yeah. So hopefully next year we'll be back on track. But the winner is, the winner of the Florida Cup has scored consistently high in all the competitions. Yep. And they receive, they receive their trophy and their bragging rights for the rest of the year. And it's one of the trophies where, you get your name, the name of your team on the trophy, and it stays there. Yep. But once we've worked out the kinks, and everybody agrees that it's a good thing, so that we can actually show our chiefs and show our departments and show ourselves how well we're doing.
Clearly.
And I think, Greg, one of the things that you mentioned is, the consistency, the team that's consistently good through all the competition. Like you mentioned also earlier, listen, you can have a bad day or a great day, but being consistent throughout the year, that's what the Florida Cup is all about.
Yep.
You can simply be the best team by scoring in the top 10 every time.
Yeah. Exactly. The most consistent. So, excellent. So, Tony, you had something to add?
Yeah, and going with that point system, Greg alluded to that earlier, that you could have teams 1 through 5 that are in some of these competitions, especially some of the teams that we have represented. 1 through 5 is 5 points is 1 through 5.
Yeah.
We're that good, and we're that close when we do that. So this particular situation with the Florida Cup vets all of the things that we have done from consistent level for competition to competition. And you could even break it down from scenario to scenario, because a lot of the rollover points do count. So you have to really be on your game to win that cup, and it's not easy. It's not an easy cup to win. You got to really be on your game to do that, and you got to beat some.
It's a long year.
Good people.
It's a long year. Yeah. And I want to encourage the people that are watching. If you're out of Florida, you don't have to be part of this. You can come in and out for any one of the competitions, and I would encourage it. Come and get a taste of one, whichever one. It doesn't really matter. They're all good. At this point in time, everybody's raised their bar where you get multiple scenarios. If you make it to finals, it's usually another day with a larger scenario. So you're going to get plenty, and you'll get a good experience. You're going to get your money's worth. That's what we're all priding ourselves on, is to make sure you get your money's worth if you're going to come. We want you to learn something for sure. So, gentlemen, I thank you so much. We've been here for a little while. And for those that are watching, again, like Tim said, just do it. Just jump into this. You're going to be better for it. But for me, I really encourage those administrators that are watching, get with your personnel and get a team together. It will benefit your agency. The money is not a lot of money to get to these places and get to these competitions. If you're out of state, other than airfare, it's no more than anything else. Couple night hotel and a registration fee, and your personnel are going to get an incredible experience with these competitions, and it's training, right? So it is training. So I really encourage that. Don't be afraid to do this. Jump right in. If we can help you in any way, by all means, reach out to any one of us. Reach out to school. I can put you in touch with any of the people on the panel here if that's what you want to talk about, or any of the ones that organize any of the competitions throughout our state. So again, thank you, gentlemen, so much for coming. and giving us your input. For those that are watching, I really hope you got something out of it. And always, we're open to different suggestions of topics you may want to hear. Feel free to reach out to us through the college. To me, you can find my contact on braxton.edu. And, just, hey, can you guys mention this? And I have some great people that may want to be on your panel. We're open to anything that's going to help our industry. So, again, thank you, guys. I hope everybody has a safe night. And good luck to you. We'll see you at the next competition.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.